you've come on with me about every Monday for the last 7 months, and you've always talked really you're a little hesitant. You're a little jumpy. You're a little nervous about this BYU game. And I understand it's a rivalry game and crazy things happen. But I look at this year, John, and I think the talent gap between the two programs is as big as it's ever been. I really believe this. And that's not to say BYU's not good, because I think Kalani's done a nice job putting that program in a good spot. But Utah's got so much talent on this team. And I know the game's down there, too. And it's a first game, so you haven't had a chance, like in the NFL, to knock that rust off and, play a preseason or an exhibition game. But I think after what happened last year with the close game at Rice-Eccles, right. And I think some of that was BYU came out to play, and some of it was Utah didn't, and some of it was a look ahead to the Pac-12 championship game, and some of it was no Huntley and no Mott. There were a lot of reasons. BYU was in it. Utah wins it. I just have a hard time seeing that happen this year. I think Utah is markedly better than BYU, and I think they'll show it in 31 days down in Provo. Why do you think maybe it's going to be closer than I do?
Well, I've been around long enough to see what mental preparation can do to you, both plus and minus. And, boy, you listen to what they're talking about at BYU, and they felt like they could win the game last year when they had a lead in the second half. They feel like they got a quarterback, which is always scary to anybody. And I think Grimes, the offensive coordinator from LSU, has brought a little bit of that Southeast Conference toughness into Provo that hasn't been there. A kind of a mentality of, we're gonna come back with our shields or on them, and I think that's kind of my on paper. I don't think it's even close. I absolutely agree with you.
I understand games aren't played on paper. Trust me, I understand that, because if they were, Utah would have won that game handily last year.
Right.
Because they were more talented. They've been more talented than BYU for the last number of years, ever since the Pac-12, and they've kind of gone in different directions. The recruiting base has gotten bigger and deeper and stronger for Utah. But here's the thing. You mentioned mental preparation. I think the first game of the year lends itself to mental preparation. If you were playing Idaho State in the first game of the year, I think I could say, okay, maybe these guys aren't going to be as focused. Maybe they will. And that's what I've said about this Utah team much of this offseason. The difference between being a good team and a great or a championship caliber team is having that killer instinct. That team Urban had in 2004, it took no prisoners. They went out and they demolished everybody. I think the closest game they had was 17 points. That team in 2008, they played some close games against some good teams, but they came out and they took care of business. To me, teams that know they're good, and they go out and show it, even against a 1AA. But this isn't a 1AA they're playing. It's a rivalry game. It's a team that damn near beat them a year ago. It's a team that's done a lot of chirping in the offseason. To be very fair, BYU has done, and you mentioned
there's
it.
No doubt about it.
They've done some talking. And I think Utah's got its eyes on a big prize. And I think that the first game of the year is their chance to show it. So I would be very surprised if the mental preparation wasn't there.
Yeah, you're always worrying about spinning your wheels, getting so mentally prepared. I mean, I've seen teams who are crying pregame mentally prepared and lose by 40, and I've seen them win by 40. So it's that emotional part. I guess maybe because I'm skittish because of the history of this game. I mean,
what's the recent history of this game?
Well, there isn't much recent, but there wasn't much history before Lavelle started winning, and Lavelle was a great coach. And it's been a pretty lopsided, really in many ways, it's been a pretty lopsided rivalry, because before Lavelle, it was all Utah, and then during Lavelle, it was just about all BYU. Exactly.
And really, since Lavelle, it's been dominated again by Utah.
Yeah, that's so you just hope as a Utah fan, you hope the tradition stays in the Utah running the gamut of them. One of the worst things you can do as a player, and in my experience, is not have proper respect for your opponent. And I think the Utes will have respect for Zach, for the tight end, for the size, and they'll be BYU's defense will be aggressive. If I'm Kalani, I'm saying we're going to try to keep this game close.
Well, do you think they'll be aggressive, or do you think they'll sit? They play a lot of that cover 3 stuff, which basically says we don't want to let you have one over the top.
Right.
You know, and I don't know who their aggressive guy off the edge would be this year. You know, in recent years it was a Taki or a Ziggy Ansah or a Kyle Van Noy. I don't know if they've got that one. Maybe that guy develops. Maybe I just haven't seen it. We're going to have my buddy and former producer Mitch Harper on a little bit later. I think they're pretty good inside. That Kairos Tonga kid is really, really good.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that they. I don't know if they got that personnel to really get after you, if that makes sense.
No,
I think
I
they've
agree
got
with
that
you.
personnel to keep it in front of you. Let's play this sucker safe. We're not going to throw one over our heads. You're going to earn it. You're going to have to move down the field and earn it on us.
I think that will be exactly their game plan going in, and let our emotions play and make a few plays and get close in the fourth quarter and then find a way to win it. I think that'll be their mentality.
Here's the thing, too. You've got a bunch of guys who almost lost the game a year ago at Utah that have played in this game a bunch. This is an upper-class team now.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of key seniors in key places. A year ago, Jason Shelley had never played in this game. He didn't know much about this rivalry game. Armand Shine didn't have a great feel for that rival. I mean, some of the guys that were being called into action last, I don't think that's the case. And you know, Kyle Whittingham, Morgan Scally, Sione Buha, Lewis Powell, Sharif Shaw. These guys have not only coached in it, they've been part of this rivalry.
And that's going to be a big plus. Yeah. I think
you've been in that building during this.
Well,
week.
I know our senior year, that Liberty Bowl team, we were not going to let them breathe. We were going to try to make their dad's ears bleed. We wanted to hurt them.
That being said, I may be completely off on all this. I've said I think Utah's two touchdowns better. May end up being a field goal game at the end that hits the upright and caroms in 34-31. But that's my sense. All right, one other thing, then we'll grab another break. You're going to go up and watch a little bit of practice. Is there a player that you're interested in kind of tracking and watching throughout fall camp? Maybe a player or two. You can give me one on each side of the ball, but I'm just curious if there's somebody you're kind of interested to watch play just a little bit.
I'm going to watch 2 groups.
Okay.
I'm going to watch the linebackers.
Okay.
See if there's I think the top 2 are fine.
Well, I think the top 3 are good. I think Devin. I think Lloyd is a. I think they would feel good about putting him in if they had to. If something happened to Bernard or Bowen, I think they'd feel good about Devin Lloyd too.
There, and then that 5th spot on the offensive line.
Okay.
I want to see the athleticism of those offensive linemen that are vying for that spot, and seeing how smooth the linebacker situation is. Getting defenses called, which is complex in their system.
There's 2 guys that I'm going to kind of keep an eye on when I'm not going to get to watch a lot of practice. I may get to see a little bit, but not very much. They're kind of closing that down a little bit this year. But I'm curious to track the progress of one player who's a true freshman. There's not going to be a lot of true freshmen that play on this team this year. There's not.
Yeah.
But Jordan Wilmore, that tailback from Los Angeles, the Southern California kid that chose Utah over SC and Arizona State. And I say that, and it's weird to say that because it's such a deep running back position, and we know that Zach Moss is going to get 80-85% of the touches and things like that. But Kyle Whittingham, and you know Kyle, he generally doesn't talk outwardly about young players, freshmen, and guys that could be impact guys, but he has about Jordan Wilmore. And I think they've got a good group with Devontae Henry Cole and T.J. Green and Devin Brumfield. But I think this kid, and the fact that Kyle's talked quite a bit about him, and he did last week at Media Day, tells me there might be something special about this kid. It'll be interesting to see if he becomes, because I think it's an open competition for the number 2 running back spot. I don't think anybody's got that thing locked down. So I'm going to be very interested to see if Jordan Wilmore is maybe the real deal. And then the other guy I'm curious about is Tariq Lewis. He's the forgotten corner. Everybody talks about Jalen Johnson taking away half the field, Julian Blackman moving back to safety. We know what Javelin Guidry does as your nickel in the slot. But, you're moving a guy that was twice second-team All-Pac-12 from corner to safety.
Right.
That's a big move. He volunteered to do it, and the coaches said, okay. That was Julian's idea, by the way,
right,
to do that. So Tariq Lewis appears to be the guy. He got some reps last year, number 5. He played a little bit in that spot, subbing in for a Blackman or or Jalen Johnson. So I'm curious to see, because he'll likely be the guy the teams look at, right? You're not going to throw at Jalen Johnson.
No.
Not very often.
No.
So they'll probably take a few shots. So I'm going to be interested to see. Josh Nurse backs this kid up, and Josh has had a good spring. But I'm going to track Tariq Lewis and see what kind of a fall camp he has. Because we talk so much about Julian and Jalen and Guidry and those guys. There is another corner spot. And that guy, you're out there on that island. Play a lot of press man at Utah. So I'm curious to see Tariq Lewis.
Well, you hope with those guys out in the island that Anai Fotu and Maxes and Penasini, it's really hard to throw from a horizontal position.
As you made Jared Goff very well aware of your last year as coordinator.
Well, when you have got great players and they want to get after the quarterback, and that's what they're going to have to do, I think you'll see some good things, and hopefully that'll convert into interceptions, tip balls, and sacks, and cause fumbles, and all kinds of fun stuff that win ball games.
John, oftentimes you can send guys and you can get great pass rush and do things and get sacks with talent. Sometimes dudes are just very talented, and sometimes you can create diversion. Sometimes you can give them different looks and confuse the offensive linemen. It's really a nightmare when you've got great talent and you have different looks, isn't it? I mean, that's almost an unbeatable combination.
And it's fun coaching them.
It makes your life really easy.
Yeah, it makes life really easy. When we had those kids in 2015, there was just, because and they moved a lot, they talked a lot, and they were very confident in what they were doing. And this group should be maybe the best in the country. It might be. They are devastating group.
If they're not the best, they're on the very short list of the best.
Yeah, and they can. That is real disruptive when you're a quarterback, and that's, to me, going in against BYU. Those four guys are just going to raise all kinds of hell, I think, in the ballgame.
And to me, the measure of it is sometimes you'll get defensive lines that have four really good starters, and then you worry if somebody gets hurt. This team might be 11 deep, and to me, that's, I think, the depth of talent that's on that line is what maybe is making them the elite defensive line in the country this year.
Yeah, I think you always want to go in. I always felt like if you had three defensive ends, you had your two starters and then one solid backup, which is a kid named Joel Schmenke, who you remember, and then you get the two big guys inside that can push the pocket. Lotulele was the brothers were just hell on wheels. They would just crush the pocket. You can really have some fun.